Welcome back, everyone, to another day. More painting in the background, and yeah, exciting times. So I'm going to be working on filling in, giving a little bit of a set, if you want to think about this as a theatrical production. I'm trying to create a setting. We're painting backdrops. We're somehow trying to create a space where this is all happening. It's not nearly as important as some of the elements in the foreground, but it does have to be enough in order for those for these characters to play out their scene. So I'm looking for that right amount of description, but yet still keeping it loose, still keeping it painterly. So I've mixed up a few piles of color here to keep working on my bricks in the background. So thanks for joining, and here we go. If you're watching this later, that's all good. I hope you are. You can drop in a question at any point, a comment, and I'd be happy to get back with you on that. So feel free to ask. Yesterday our stream got cut short. We were just having internet connectivity issues. So sorry if you were watching. It's good to have you for that time. Again, it's good to have you. Feel free to drop a question in if you'd like. Love to hear from you. Otherwise, I'm probably just going to continue painting in silence. David's got an eye on the chat stream, so if something comes in, I'll be able to address it. Which I must say is a great help to have. It's hard to keep an eye on all those things at the same time. Even though I've mixed up a few pools of color just for this background, and yeah, it's just kind of a drab color back here, not a whole lot of chroma. You know, occasionally I'll reach into some of my tube colors to just give a slight variance to each stone. Doesn't have to be much, but something that is believable and just enough to tell what's happening. I like having a few colors ready as just kind of points that as I'm working I can draw from those. You know, largely they're there for reasons of value, just having a few pools of the value that I'm going to be working with for the day. And these are all darker, but great to have around. And then if I want to add a little bit of mixture here and there, I can do so with those, just some slight variation. They just provide some good basis points. Of course, using a limited palette, you know, the colors that I'm going to add will come from that. Those same colors that they were mixed with, so it's just, it just really works together. So I'm kind of noticing as I'm working here, I just see a little bit of a black outline occurring here, largely because it's just a little darker in the layer underneath. So what I'm going to want to do is just break that up, because we are trying to act as though this figure is in front of what's behind, but kind of a strange thing happens when it just looks like there's still a line around the figure that that continuity is disrupted. So a lot of times I'll just make sure that I just do something to very intentionally break that point. Break some of those areas that are just darker. Even if I'm not really seeing it in the source material, but it's just something that I know is going to make a difference in the painting if I do that. And already I'm happier with it. And all I did was just lighten this area here, an overall kind of dark line that was following the back of the figure, just lightening it some. And that way we're not getting, it's not feeling like, yes, I did have to kind of piece all these pieces together, but in this way, again, we're just reading these things that are just going on back behind, and it still works that way. And that's, you know, when painters talk about edges, talk about them in a lot of different ways. Soft edges, hard edges, and that's all good. In speaking about just paint application, and how to kind of treat those spots, I like to just think of it in terms of like what's happening and how can I make what's behind seem like it's truly a space. So a lot of times I'm watching for things that just don't seem right, kind of stick out. Some of my students or some individuals who get monthly critiques from me will know what I'm talking about. They probably get tired of me saying it. That the character or whoever is taking the focal point of the painting looks like, you know, they're completely surrounded by a bit of a halo, for lack of a better word, just because of kind of sometimes the way in which, especially on a piece like this, it has to be worked piecemeal. It takes time. So making sure those spaces are broken up in good ways that just allow that to go back behind. Again, a couple of value breaks between the stones. You know, yeah, I do have some source material, but, you know, I'm glancing at it occasionally if I'm wanting just a little bit of detail here and there. I don't want to get too detailed. That's not going to serve the purpose of, you know, the focal imagery. You know, yeah, it's nice. It's nice to have all of that rendered well, but, you know, we're making a painting, and, you know, we want it to be about what we want. We're determining what the piece is going to hold, and getting caught up in just details that are unnecessary are going to get in the way. You know, keep the main thing the main thing. You know, and I intend to use these size of brushes kind of throughout, even as I'm working on the face, the hair. Yeah, I'll get a little smaller when I get into certain areas, but I want to keep some brush energy. So, I mean, I suppose in this background, yeah, I could use a bigger brush, and I did on the initial pass, but that's not going to be helpful for me later. Because I want the same kind of brush energy here and there, and for the piece to feel alive. In order for that to happen, the strokes need to be still available and seen. All right. This cast shadow here, it's not really reading like a cast shadow right now, so I'm gonna play with it a little bit as though there are a little chunk missing, kind of like there is here, and see if that changes it at all. I don't know if it will. I'll have to probably refine this edge a little bit so that it works this way. And then I've got some plans for that. But that's, for right now, that's another day. That's kind of one of those things at the end that could be unimportant once it's all rendered, and I don't want to get so consumed with that when, you know, I want to focus, get these figures really accomplished first. overall, I mean, I won't know until I get more done, but you know, this is a satisfactory level in the background. Yeah, it's loose, but I'm still thinking, yeah, this is working, and it may need a little bit of touch up here and there, but we'll get there later. Again, I'm still trying to kind of keep the same level of render as much as I can all the way across. And there will be times where that works better than others as I get done. And these layers are going to start drying too, and it looks like they're going to dry matte. And this is more because of the type of tube paint that I'm using than anything else. But yeah, that's gonna change. That's okay. Of course, I always debate as to whether to share these portions, as they're not, it's not like I'm working on the face today, but I think it's just good to kind of see the whole process. That's what we're doing on this piece. So I do appreciate you coming back and seeing what's happening. Watching this unfold in real time. You know, the question is often, well, how long did that take? And that's a tough question to answer. Largely because, well, usually I don't clock in and clock out, as it were, but so I'll be able to at least quantify this by the end. I don't know if we're gonna try to piece it all together in one. I know we're definitely gonna do a time lapse of it all. Got some studying to do. I had a stuffed dove at a nearby museum that the museum gave me access to. So there's a great conversation to have. Sometimes you need to go get to know your local museums and make friends. Take them out to dinner, network, because you can do things that you wouldn't be able to do otherwise. So they were kind enough. They removed the stuffed dove and gave me permission to photograph it. And so I did so from numerous angles, and I'll just say this one photo shoot that I took with this stuffed dove has informed wings for all sorts of characters, but also the dove appears in paintings as well. And so here it is again, the fruit of getting to know your local museums or even your regional museums, because some of the smaller town museums are a little more accessible than the city. And so yeah, they just had numerous stuffed taxidermied animals, and I was like, ooh, this will serve me a lot. And I kind of already had an idea for painting, so I took many photographs with it, multiple vantage points, different light setups, and so here it is. I'm able to now use it in this piece as well. That one bit of work continues to serve me. definitely get to know your community. Add a few little breaks here and there. Breaks in the bricks, just for visual interest. Not too much. Our tendency is to make things even, but it's interesting even as you look at like stars in the sky or galaxies or the way plants grow, there's usually clusters, so things are almost always together, not randomly spaced out necessarily. And it's just a good life thing to take note of, because in painting, especially during invention, it's good to think about how this is going to work. And yeah, we want to create something that's believable, yes. Especially in representational painting. So I'm just using the same brush. I'm not changing it. So when it gets a little messy, I just go with it. I mean, limited mixed palette is kind of my thing, so I just let it be messy, especially in the background like this. Sometimes there's a little bit of paint or something that just needs to be broken up. In my case, it's normally a cat hair. It's good to keep some tools around for capturing the hairs, dust, little flakes, so on and so forth. Each one of these strokes is made with drawing in mind. I'm really trying to look at the overall shape of the dove so that I capture it, that profile. One of the things that happens is as I near the angle, my light can kind of block so that I can't see. So I think I'm going to switch to standing here to leave the camera mostly intact. That allows me an angle in which to see without the glare of the lights. I mean, I could have shifted the entire easel, but wanted to keep the camera in place. David's sleepy. A lot of yawning going on over there. it is almost like magic sometimes, where I'm just working on something, but each step of the way, even though I'm focused on one area, it just begins to work all over the rest of the painting. And I begin to see all the promise that the piece holds. Those are really invigorating moments where it's like, oh yeah, this is what this is going to be, or what this is what this can be. Really kind of hold out for those times. They're life-giving. It's just having one of those block out my arch here. And I'm just using a comparative method. I'm just kind of taking a look at where I have the dove and where on the arch each one of these stones lie, and then just blocking that in so that I can say, okay, I think this is ready. How's it going, everybody? Good to have you. If you have questions, let me know. I'm just working my way through the background here of the Annunciation, trying to give it a sense of space, sense of place, and each one of these stones I'm playing with just a little bit, exaggerating some of the color, creating some small variations. Not necessarily wanting to outline them with line, but letting most of that line happen just as one color edge butts up to another, and not trying too hard because it can go south quick. If I were to paint a black outline around each of these, even though in my source material I can make out some of those, and I've hinted at some of them, but that's really about all I'll need, just in considering the rest of the painting. Especially at some point, of course, we're going to have fully rendered figures in the front, and we don't want things to be so detailed that they take away from the interaction here. So if you have a question, please drop it in the comments, or even just say hi. That's good too. I'd love to hear from you and ask you how you're doing. Yeah, this block being subtly blue, this one being a little warmer. Those are fun little changes that I hope will create just a little visual interest. But not too much. Sense of space, that's all we need. Kind of trying to decide how light do I want this edge that is catching the light to be. Probably not as light as the ground layer, which it is in some of these spots. Those are kind of those intuitive decisions you have to make as a painter. Okay, how do I want to treat this? Fortunately, working in oils, you get some do-overs. calm that down a little bit. Might need to do it some more. And then there could be some weird drawing things in here I'll have to tune up at some point as well. But there's always some of that. I don't claim to get it right. Yeah, that's a little calmed down, a little subdued, which I think I like a little better. Move on to this next block. So my source material, it gets a little darker. So I'll try to make that break, giving it a little darker value. Definitely catching the light. It's reflecting from my easel light, which I was really grateful to be gifted. I don't know if it's Revelite or it's probably Revelite or Revealite. It's a 36-inch, so the whole it's 36 inches wide, and it has two areas in which you can focus the beams, kind of like two sets of beams that you can focus. So I can have light here, and then I can also intensify the light down here so that I have a little bit of an even light across the entire surface. I found this product to be pretty nice. One drawback, and at some point I plan to do a review video of it, so here's my practice run. The one drawback is it takes it only uses about 3000 Kelvin for the light temperature, which I think could look fine on finished works, because they're also manufactured for paintings. So if you're a collector and you have artwork on your wall, this is a way that you could shine, keep an even, beautiful light across your collection, especially a particular piece. So it's really nice in that respect. At least for me, I want a little bit cooler of a light. I want to match daylight as best as I can, and so I had to get a little creative. That's what you do, and I placed I went to just a theatrical supply store here in town, and kind of the only one left. Imagine it's a really hard business to keep afloat in this day and age. And I was able to buy some gels, and I cut them so that they could fit, and I attached them, and I was able to cool down the light a little bit. It's probably sitting now at around 37 37, 38, 100 Kelvin. And so I'd like to just do a little more. And we'll see if I can make that happen at some point. Might double up my gel, because I got a couple of different ones, and just see if I can get it to around 4,000, maybe closer to 4,500. I notice it a lot as soon as I turn off the light. The work looks a lot less warm, and so I know that it's, yeah, you know, your piece is going to look different in different places, but you know, I definitely want to, I think some artists have said, hey, you know, it's best to kind of create in light around 4,500 Kelvin. And I just like it a little cooler, more even, more near daylight temperature, just because it helps me see better. And there's no hard and fast rules. You know, someone could buy the painting and then they could put it in a room that never gets any light, or they could put it in a room that's filled with a bunch of tungsten bulbs. But either way. You never know where it's going to end up. Kind of like a musician. You know, in a studio, songs being mastered, but then somebody puts on a couple of ear buds and listens to your album, and it was sure nice mastering it, but you have no control over where it's going to end up, which I think is interesting. Welcome if you're just joining us. I'm working on the background today of the Annunciation. I looking to just kind of block in some major shapes. I want to kind of create this interior. I want to try to keep it rough and full of energy, so that when I get the figures in here and get those finished and rendered, those end up looking top. And so this is what happens. Working on a big painting, you've got to treat each section at least accordingly so that you can achieve your desired result with the piece in the end, which means showing some level of care for things that maybe you don't care to do. Maybe it's not the most exciting thing, painting blocks, but I've got the end goal in mind. I see the whole, and I've established most of the underpainting on the figures and all the areas. Those things are in place, and they're awaiting a final color layer that will be semi-transparent. But until then, while those areas are drying, I'm working up the background, getting it to a place where I can really feel satisfied with the setting for the models. Feel free to ask. Love to hear from you. Let me know what you're thinking. Let me know who you are. What are you creating? What are you working on right now? And how can I assist you in your art making? It's kind of the only reason I'm doing this right now, is just to make myself available while I'm working. To multitask a little bit. So So what do you want to know? What do you need help with in your art? Let me know. We got about 30 more minutes, and then I'll be taking a break. So maybe kicking the rest of the family off of their devices so that I can have a better live stream experience. Happens when you work from home. Hazards of it. Spending a little time just trying to refine this one block here, just drawing wise. It's looking a little funny, and just make sure it's even, and then I've done a good job capturing this moment. This actually be nice. This is going to create a little wedge here that will send the viewer down into this space here compositionally. As such, I'm going to create the block in between here, which I can't really see very well due to my easel, but I'm going to trust what I know to be true and create just a little bit of a darker block that creates an arrow down. Not too much so, but I definitely want to send the eye down that path. I'll have to lift that to ultimately see what it looks like, but for now I'm going to trust that I did okay. I kind of sketch out each spot that I feel where the stones are. Sort of also in keeping with this side here too, so not only am I going to be mindful of where I place them here, but where do they exist in this? We don't want that to be too off because people are going to notice. It'll just be one of those unsettling things. You might never see it, but it'll be sensed, it'll be felt. And definitely want to avoid that. You know, want people to enjoy it. Those are the little things that can ruin paintings. Comparing it to my source material, I'm comparing it to the arch on the other side because I want those to match.
Austin says, have you ever refused a sale? I had a lady once talking about hanging a painting of St. Anthony of the Desert in her bathroom. Told her, oh no, one's not for sale yet. Speaking of not knowing what happens to your piece once it's out of your hands.
Yeah. No, I've never been in that position where people were going to do something that I was like, oh, that's not really what that's for. I don't believe I've been really placed in that situation before. Thankfully. But you're right, that is a tough place to be in. I do have people ask a lot of times, for like care, like, hey, how can I, where would I put this? Or where would I, how do I ensure this is well taken care of? And it's good to, and by the way, it's good to see Anna. Sorry, I'm coming in about 15 minutes left before we're going to take the midday break here. But yes, a lot of questions about how to care for a piece. And oftentimes I'll offer a little bit about kind of what you were saying this person was going to do. I'll just basically communicate that, hey, this the painting's going to be okay. Just please take care not to have it in places with a lot of humidity changes, and so on and so forth, because I feel like that is a good way to shorten the lifespan of the painting. Also, no direct sunlight and so on and so forth. So I feel like I've had a lot of those conversations. I've never had to tell anyone no. And I'm sorry that was said to you. Oh man, that is rough to deal with. So maybe it would come to that at some point if I knew the work was going to be possibly mistreated on purpose, or was maybe purchased for a wrong reason. But good question, great question. And sorry, and thanks for sticking around. I don't realize the stream is intermittent today, so anyone who is on the stream and hanging out, you get the prize today, and I'm just grateful for your willingness, because for whatever reason it's just pretty rough. And I know you guys are all getting excited for the good stuff, right? Right, when's it getting to the hands and the faces, and soon. Don't worry, we're getting there, and you'll have a good deal more excitement, and you'll be able to watch that. Kind of cut those really fun things that come into being. So right now I'm working on the supporting cast. I kind of like this thing that's when I originally set the figure in here, I was thinking this would be a nice way to frame Mary. And now that I'm working in these the stone archway here, I'm thinking, wow, it's creating some nice diagonals that are moving. I mean, more so than the source material, you can't even really see what's happening, but I'm kind of liking some of these diagonals that are moving us from the outside of the composition and into the figure, and I'm good with that. We're gonna roll with that. See if we can kind of create a little more of that, almost as though the halo is continuing. So I like the way that's working. So we're gonna keep that one going. We only got about 10 more minutes. I'm gonna see if just get this a little more blocked out. I want to notify everyone, Rachel from Dealer Services just called me. She wanted to tell me about my car's extended warranty. felt like the contrast was just a little too jarring on these, so I thought I'd lighten just a little bit. I think I'll still be able to maintain that those diagonals I was talking about. Point to the figure. Should be able to keep those in play, but I think I felt like it just needed a little less. And we'll see what happens there. I may have to come back.